we have some very interesting news coming out of Microsoft. They have confirmed, and specifically Phil Spencer has confirmed through tweet, that Nintendo and Microsoft have reached an agreement. Microsoft has reached a 10-year agreement with Nintendo to put Call of Duty titles on the Nintendo platforms, currently the Switch, uh, for 10 years. So this will come after the Activision Blizzard acquisition. And I mean, this is a huge development in this saga that has been this acquisition. We've been hearing a lot about deals between Microsoft and Sony, potential deals. Microsoft offered Sony a 3-year deal in the beginning, wasn't good enough. So Microsoft upped it to 10 years. And as far as we can tell, Sony has rejected it or even ignored it. Sony seems to be playing for a perpetual agreement, which is not realistic in these things. I mean, come on. We know that that's just not realistic in the world of business. I think really Sony's goal is to stop the acquisition. And, I don't take sides here. It's not what this is about. I'm not going to fault a business for trying to prevent a competitor from growing. It's just how these things go. I do think that this acquisition would be better for the industry, and not necessarily the size, but specifically because it is Activision, and Activision is currently being run very poorly. But that's beside the point. So yeah, we're gonna see Call of Duty games return to Nintendo platforms. We have not had a Call of Duty title on a Nintendo platform since 2013. Call of Duty Ghosts was on the Wii U. I bet a lot of people probably didn't realize that. A lot of people didn't have Wii U's, but yeah, Call of Duty Ghosts was on the Wii U, as was Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Um, so we haven't seen any Call of Duty titles on Nintendo platforms, nothing on the Switch. Um, the timing is interesting because Phil confirms that development would not be able to start until after the completion of the deal, which is dated for June 2023. So development wouldn't even start. Now, depending on the route that Microsoft goes here, I mean, that's going to affect the development times. There's a few different paths to get Call of Duty running on Switch. Um, we could get the easiest route, probably the worst option for consumers would be Call of Duty Cloud version. I don't think anyone wants that. The cloud versions on Switch are usually not great. Playing a first person like Twitch shooter through the cloud, that sounds pretty miserable. Um, so I'm really hoping that's not what we're talking about here. I kind of doubt that's what we're talking about. I feel like Nintendo probably would have pushed for something a little bit more. Um, we could see Call of Duty Mobile get ported to the Switch. That seems fairly possible and maybe even fairly likely. Call of Duty Mobile is very popular, does very well. It's a mobile version. It's a much different, slimmed down version of Call of Duty. It might be suited for the Switch. We've seen other mobile titles get ported to the Switch and not other consoles. It just kind of makes a little bit of sense. We could get Warzone, which um, is easier in the sense that it's not a full game that they're having to port each year, but it also would be really challenging, I think, to get that running properly on the Switch because Warzone is, it's Battle Royale, 150 players. I don't know if Nintendo Switch Online can handle that kind of online gaming. We would have to kind of see. And then we could get ports of just regular Call of Duty games when they come out each year for Xbox One, Xbox Series, potentially PlayStation 4 or 5. We would also see a Switch version. I think that's the path I would like to see is just straight up ports. I know that it seems in our minds it seems impossible for a game like Call of Duty to run on the Switch, but I think that it could be done. It would take time, would not be easy, but I think it can be done. We've seen some really good titles on the Switch. We've seen Wolfenstein, we've seen Doom Eternal even. I think it can be done. We also have to think about the timing, like I said before. If development can't start until June of 2023, I mean, we know that the Switch is going to be 6 years old come March. I think that we're all pretty much expecting some sort of successor soon. I mean, maybe not next year, maybe, who knows. If not next year, 2024, 2025. Whether that's, just a souped up upgraded version of the current Switch, or a Switch 2 or Super Switch, Nintendo Switch 2 whatever you want to call it. We're going to see some sort of successor to the Switch at some point in the future. Probably within the next 2 to 3 years, I would guess. I would say probably my personal just guess with absolutely no information is probably 2024. So theoretically on a new Switch, we would see Call of Duty able to run much more smoothly, because theoretically the specs would be a lot better. I mean, again, we have no real information, nothing concrete, but we have to keep in mind that current Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, runs on a 2013 VCR Xbox One. And it doesn't run well, but it runs. It's there. And, I know the Xbox One is more powerful than the Switch in some ways, but it's just, if they can get it running on the Xbox One and the base PS4, I think that they could probably get it running on the Switch. But, that's just part of this situation and this conversation. I think it's really interesting to look at this deal, which also was made with Valve. Call of Duty will release on Steam for 10 years. On one hand, this is like a goodwill gesture, and I'm sure that's part of it. It's a goodwill gesture. It helps Microsoft build a relationship with Nintendo, build a relationship with Valve. It gets Microsoft more sales. Switch is over 100 million unit seller. So, and Call of Duty on Steam Decks are really popular these days. Makes sense. That's one angle. It's good for Microsoft. This deal goes through. They get to open up Call of Duty to a whole new market. It's great. It's pretty standard. That makes sense. I think that the real reason this deal is being made right now and being publicly broadcasted right now in this way is because they are worried that the Activision Blizzard deal will not go through. It has been under tight scrutiny in the UK from the CMA. It's starting to get under some scrutiny here. And I understand that from our perspective as gamers, we're like, okay, we just want this deal to go through. We want these games on Game Pass. We want, Activision is run by a monster and Bobby Kotick. We want that fixed. I get that. But Microsoft is a huge company. And so these deals are just going to be heavily scrutinized. And it is true that a lot of the people scrutinizing them don't know about video games. Sony's been making some arguments about, trying to get this deal to not go through, saying that it's not good for gamers, it's not good for player choice, it's not good for competition, that sort of thing. And again, I'm not blaming one side or the other. I'm not saying one side or the other is bad. I know that we have a tendency to devolve into console wars. It's not really what we're about here. It's just, it's business. Sony is competing with Microsoft. They don't want to see this deal happen because Microsoft will become very big, very huge. And Microsoft wants the deal to go through because they want to have all these games under their umbrella for Game Pass. They want to get all the revenues. And I mean, but this deal with Nintendo really hurts Sony's argument that this is bad for competition and that this is bad for player choice. This is actually really great for player choice. It gives more players the opportunity to play these games. And Activision was obviously not going to put these games on Switch by themselves, but now Microsoft is telling the regulators if this deal goes through, the player choice will factually and 100% increase because the games will come to other platforms. Microsoft is also offered directly to sit down with Sony and make a 10-year deal. So, and Sony's probably going to be more pressure to do that now because now Microsoft has control of the situation. They could tell Sony, you don't make this deal, then we won't put games on your platform. We'll put them on Nintendo. And then suddenly PlayStation's the only platform that does not have Call of Duty. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think that the end result here is that Microsoft will put Call of Duty on everything and treat it like Minecraft, because that makes the most financial sense. So this Call of Duty deal really shakes up the industry, I think, in a pretty big way. Um, Call of Duty is one of the most profitable franchises of any medium of all time. It might even be the top for gaming. It's definitely up there either way. And it coming to Nintendo is huge, because Nintendo is a huge seller with Switch these days. And it's a big deal for this Activision Blizzard acquisition. So, what do you guys think about the news that Call of Duty is coming to Nintendo platforms? Are you skeptical that Call of Duty will even be playable like in a good state on Switch? Are you interested? You're going to try it out? You're going to play it when it eventually does come, which again, it's going to be a while. And what do you think this means for the Activision Blizzard deal? You guys think this will help the acquisition? I think it will definitely help the acquisition go through. Seems like the final move that will push this through. But definitely let me know in the comments. If you haven't, hit that subscribe. I am in the process of relaunching Pixel Positive Gaming as a YouTube channel. I ran a website for a while, dabbled in YouTube a little bit, so now we're going to go full YouTube. Very excited. I'm going to try to cover gaming news, going to try to cover probably JRPGs quite a bit, and just some different things in gaming. So if you guys are interested, definitely hit that subscribe. You can jump in early. Hopefully we can make this thing big, try to bring a little bit more positivity to the gaming scene, because it can get pretty toxic sometimes. So I will see you guys at the next video.